Of all the great monuments in prehistory, few fascinate us more than the standing stone circles found in many countries around the world. Stone circles like the Nabta Playa in Egypt, the cromlechs in Brittany, the Callanish stones of Lewis in the northwest of Scotland, and surely the most well-known stone circle in the world, Stonehenge. These are undoubtedly visually stunning and often awe-inspiring, but also perplexing. Who built them, and why were they built? What were they actually for? In the northeast of Scotland, the lowlands of Aberdeenshire are home to a unique variation of the standing stone circle. This is the Recumbent Stone circle. There are, in fact, about 70 of these in this corner of Scotland. The unique feature of this type of circle, which is unknown anywhere else, is an enormous stone set deliberately on its side and wedged between two flanker stones at the south or southwest aspect of the circle. This large stone is known as the Recumbent Stone. The circles were constructed by small Bronze Age farming communities who lived in the fertile lowlands of northeast Scotland about 4,000 years ago. This short film explores some of these remarkable monuments and the changing views on why they were built.
We're on our way to East Ackworthy's stone circle near Inverurie. It's one of the most complete examples of a stone circle to survive in the northeast. So that makes it a really excellent place to start investigating these remarkable stone structures. Although there are some variations in the size and the style of these stone circles, they are really all remarkably similar. The circle here has 12 standing stones, including the 3 of the recumbent setting. It measures almost 20 metres across. That's big, but certainly not the biggest. The tallest stones are the flankers on either side of the massive recumbent stone, and opposite the recumbent is the smallest stone in the circle. Colour and shape seem to have been important to the people constructing these circles. Contrasting grey and red stones were deliberately used to enhance the visual effect. Quartz inlays in some of the stones seem to have been consciously used for visual effect. The focal point of these stone circles is the recumbent stone and the 2 flankers, which are almost always placed on a south or southwest aspect of the circle. The bulk of these recumbent stones is genuinely remarkable, with many weighing over 20 tons. The front and top sections have been deliberately shaped and levelled. The recumbent stone has been chalked up and wedged in between the 2 flankers so that its top edge is as horizontal as possible. Archaeologists say that the recumbent stone and the flankers have been constructed in this way to give the appearance of a blocked doorway. A really striking image. But what or where did this supposed doorway lead to?
Over the years, there have been several vivid explanations of the purposes of these stone circles. In the 16th century, they were thought to be temples of the gods, the recumbent stones being sacrificial altars. While in the 17th and 18th centuries, antiquarians referred to them as temples of the Druids. In the more enlightened 19th century, with the first semi-scientific studies of the circles, came new interpretations, which viewed the circles as places of burial. However, by the 20th century, as the science of archaeology developed, this view was replaced by the emphasis on the circles as being sites of cremation and commemoration of ancestors.
Archaeologists have drawn attention to the way in which the recumbent stone and the flankers often seem to frame distant hills and mountains. Here at Tomnavery Stone Circle near Tarland, the framing of Loch Nagar about 30 miles away to the southwest is obvious. Were they consciously constructed to provide a viewing platform for distant hills or mountains which had significance for the community who built the circle? Other stone circles also appear to frame certain hills and mountains. At Easter-a-Quarthes, the Hill of Fair is framed. It's noticeable, however, that Benihee, the northeast's most distinctive landmark hill, is not framed by any of the stone circles visible from it. So, is framing simply a coincidence?
One view is that what is being framed by the recumbent is not a distant hill or mountain, but something quite different. One of the most fascinating theories about recumbent stone circles has come to be called the Lunar Hypothesis. It has been suggested that in common with other stone circles like Stonehenge, the recumbent stone circles were for astronomical observation of the constellations and specific celestial events. In particular, it has been suggested that the careful alignment of the recumbent stone and flankers towards the south or southwest allows for a framed view of the major lunar cycle only visible every 18.6 years. This is what is known as a lunar standstill. At high latitudes over a period of 2 weeks, the moon's highest altitude changes from high in the sky to low over the horizon. This animation shows what it might have been like. In support of the Lunar Hypothesis, some archaeologists have drawn attention to the cup marks which exist in some recumbents and standing stones. These round bored holes in the face of the stone may have symbolised the power of the moon. The most recent views of archaeologists, however, are sceptical of the Lunar Hypothesis. They suggest that the southwesterly aspect of the recumbent settings are much more likely to have framed the movement of the sun both at the significant times of the winter and summer solstices and also more generally in the daily cycle.
This framing of the setting sun in the southwest aspect of the circle links the architecture of the stone circles to their underlying purpose, not the observation of the heavens, but the commemoration of the dead. One of the most recent discoveries which undermines the theory of the stone circles as observatories came about not from focusing on the standing stones themselves, but on this apparently empty area inside the stone circle.
Archaeological investigations have shown that the interiors of many stone circles were covered by stone cairns, which would have taken up most of the internal space of the circle.
These cairns have long since disappeared. From medieval times onwards, their stones were used in the construction of dikes and other field improvements. At Lonehead of David near Inverurie, the internal cairn was partially reconstructed following archaeological excavations. It helps us to understand more fully the sequence of the construction of stone circles. Let's go and have a look at it now.
At Lone Head of Daviot, the partially reconstructed cairn gives a good idea of their size and importance. When completed, it might have been several feet high. Excavations of the ring cairns have found clear evidence of burning and ash deposits. Some of the cairns may have been sited over the location of wooden funeral pyres which were cleared away prior to the construction of the cairn. The purpose of the cairn was to cover and seal off the cremated remains of the community's dead. Some cairns may have retained a central opening so that they could continue to be used by later generations. The central open circle here at Lone Head represents this feature.
Until very recently, the accepted view among archaeologists was that the construction of the stone circles preceded the construction of the internal ring cairns. The most recent archaeological excavations, however, here at Tomnavery, have discovered that in fact the ring cairns preceded the building of the stone circles. Indeed, the way in which the cairns were constructed actually envisaged and determined the way in which the stone circles were later erected. Carbon dating from Tomnavery has shown that the area on which the recumbent stone and the flankers was constructed was strengthened before the erection of the internal cairn. In other words, the internal cairns and the stone circles were part of one continuous process, probably accomplished by the same community and possibly even within a single generation.
The fact that the cairns preceded the circles has undermined the views that the circles were places where communal activities of worship or observing the heavens regularly took place. This would simply have been physically too difficult, because we now know a raised cairn existed inside the circle. The stone circle symbolised closure and commemoration, rather than being a place of active communal worship or other activity. And the final piece of the circle itself was a recumbent stone wedged in between the flankers as a symbolic closed doorway to the dead. Seen from a distance on a site of raised ground by the people whose ancestors were commemorated within it, the stone circle was a visible reminder of their continuity with the past.
Stone circles were not just about commemorating the past, they were also making a definitive statement about the present. At a time when Bronze Age settlements in the northeast were establishing permanent farming settlements, some in close proximity to others, they were a highly visible statement and even possibly a warning. This is the land of our ancestors. This is our land.
While the recumbent stone setting makes Aberdeenshire's stone circles unique, it is their shared links with other stone circles in neighbouring areas and further afield that has helped to unravel their mysteries. Architectural similarities between the recumbent stone circles and the Clava cairns of Inverness-shire and Nairnshire are striking. Both share standing stones and internal cairns marked out by curbstones. The Clava cairns are chambered burial cairns with a passageway leading into the cairn, which was eventually sealed off. In contrast, there were no passageways into the cairns of recumbent stone circles. The recumbent stone is a symbolic act of closure, not a real one. Although the two communities of people who built the Clava cairns and the recumbent stone circles lived separately and developed their own unique funereal rites, they were also united by wider shared traditions and knowledge of burying and honouring the dead.
Visiting these stone monuments to our past is a humbling experience. They require enormous amounts of skill, energy and communal effort to create. Here at Midmar Kirk, the close proximity of the stone circle and the graveyard is clear evidence of the connections which local people have made between the past and the present. For some visitors, interest in these remarkable stone structures will always be focused on the archaeology and the history of their construction. But for others, there's simply a continuing identification with their purpose of honouring the ancestors. Whatever the reason for our interest in these circles, when we visit them today, we learn not just about these magnificent granite stones, but also something about the fundamental human need to make sense of our own lives.